Hi guys. Firstly, Happy New Year to everyone. We're now halfway through Mamemeister's High Score Kerfuffle Season 4, and last week we had the classic shmup, Terra Cresta, released by Nichibatsu in 1985. Prior to this week, I'd played this game once or twice, and found it very difficult and unremarkable. Putting more time into it this week, and I really enjoyed it. The enemies are fairly forgettable, your ship is pretty slow, and it's huge, but there is definitely a certain charm to the game. It is difficult, but as you begin to get used to it and remember where the enemies are, then it is doable, and the difficulty is about right to be enjoyable. Not impossible, but far from trivial. The game mechanic of collecting the ship pieces is quite interesting too, gradually picking pieces up and increasing your ship's power until you lose them when you take a hit. Only a small number of times was I able to collect all the pieces, which turns you into the Phoenix that appears on the title screen, which gives you a short spell of invulnerability, which is a nice feature. For me, I think the slightly slower pace and the need to memorise the stages worked in my favour, and I think I did okay. Let's see how everyone else has done. We had 17 submissions last week, including a return from Retrotron 2084, who didn't play last week, and we saw Alan throw a run-in during his live stream. Given this was a single run after a period of time not playing, Alan did alright, and no doubt could do better with a bit more practice. He finishes 16th. Moxie Channel has been putting out some nice videos sharing his thoughts about each of the games. He liked this one, but is down in 13th, just ahead of Colin, who streamed this, but didn't enjoy it. Wee Bob has returned to the points this week in 10th. Paulie Moz has finished 9th, after very much hitting a wall at around 60,000. Robert is in the points once again in 8th. We've got the first points of the season for Retrotron 24 with an excellent 5th place, and first to best 100,000 points. In our top 4, we've got our battle for 3rd place and battle for top spot overall. Big Juffer has finished just ahead of me in 3rd with a good 170,000, but it was always looking like there was only going to be one winner this week. Finishing ahead of our current leader with a huge 280,000 points is 10 Shearers. With a PB of over 300,000 points, it was always going to be tough to beat him this week. So a very well done to 10 Shearers, who's taken his second win of the season. Here is the histogram once again, and this looks nothing like a normal distribution. We have 2 highly populated bins on the left, suggesting that many people were getting stuck around the same point. We then have an even increase in scores through to 10 Shearers at the top, who shares a bin with Andrew, highlighting that he wasn't that far ahead, despite taking the win. I've been thinking about another way of displaying this, so now I've got a new visualization for you. I had been wanting to generate something that possibly reflected the difficulty curve, as many games have certain sections that are more difficult than others, and it's more likely that multiple people will get stuck at that point. It could be a boss or other tricky section. What we have here is a plot of the scores on the y-axis, on the log scale as always, and then each person in ascending order of score on the x-axis, equally spaced. Steeper lines corresponds to jump in score that have sections between those points that are a bit more doable, and flatter sections are where multiple people have similar scores and presumably got stuck in similar sections. With Terra Cresta, we can see our 8 lowest scores are all pretty similar to each other with quite a flat profile, suggesting that getting over around 50,000 was pretty difficult. We then see that even increase that we saw in the histogram. To me, this shows that for those that are able to break that 50,000 barrier, getting further in the game is a bit more achievable. So an early game that is okay to around 30,000 or so, a significant difficulty jump, and then a more linear difficulty increase. Let me know what you think of this plot in the comments, and if it makes sense. Let's see how things have changed in the league table. There's not been too much movement. That excellent first point finish for Retrotron 2084 has seen him jump straight into 11th, pushing everyone else below him down. Above that, there's been little movement, but we do have a new leader. Andrew had got ahead of 10 Shearers after taking back-to-back wins, but 10 Shearers is back in the lead after his win this week. The difference between them is less than the difference between first and second, so it's all to play for. Big Juffer has also closed the gap to me to just 1 point, so we've got 2 close battles for the podium places. So this week I can finally give an answer to last season's winner Andrew. The question he has been asking was, can we play Defender yet? And the answer to that question is, yes, we can play this week. Defender was released by Williams Electronics all the way back in 1981, 5 years before I was born. The game is iconic and pretty much invented the horizontal scrolling shooter genre, along with Scramble from Konami that same year. I'm obviously aware of Defender, but I've never played it, so can't comment much on what it's like to play other than reporting the difficulty that this game is famous for, partly due to the very narrow shots that you fire and the size of the enemies, which are pretty small. The control scheme is also pretty interesting. The team were inspired by asteroids and space invaders that had come before, and so there is a mix of joystick and button controls. A two-way joystick controls your vertical position. There is a thrust button to move, a reverse button to change direction, fire, smart bomb, and a hyperspace button similar to asteroids. Emulators often rejig the controls so that left and right on the joystick or D-pad will turn you around and provide thrust in that direction, but this isn't consistent with the original machine. I'd suggest you move to something that resembles the original panel if possible via some remapping. I'm looking forward to playing this one, and it'll be interesting if it turns out to be an enjoyable or frustrating experience. We'll be playing the red label version, which looks like the more common one, with the default settings. I hope for you it's an enjoyable week, and I'll be back next week with the scores. See you then.